Hi, my name is Christina Martin, and I am going to present my Select Leader presentation on Albus Dumbledore. So Albus Dumbledore is a character in the popular Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. He is the headmaster of the school Hogwarts, which is where Harry goes to school for learning to become a wizard. So I broke out my presentation in the different practices from our book, The Leadership Challenge. The first one is Model the Way. And with Dumbledore, I really feel like his mentorship of Harry is kind of a good example of how he models his leadership. He's very much a person who likes to lead by example, and he's not really someone who gives prescribed advice, so to speak. In the article, 5 Lessons of a Dumbledore Education by Roosmere Music and Lindsay J. Agans, they talk about how Dumbledore, start quote, "The headmaster believes in giving students information, the tools and knowledge they need to accomplish difficult tasks on their own," end quote. I feel like this is a really good example of how Dumbledore models the way. It's absolutely true that he believes in giving his students and his faculty the tools that they need to be able to do what they need to do. Especially the teachers. Inspire a shared vision. I thought that Severus Snape was a really good example of how Dumbledore's shared vision runs. Severus Snape, for those of you who do not know, Severus Snape was a very close confidant of Dumbledore, and he ended up being the one to kill Dumbledore at Dumbledore's request. Dumbledore asked him to do that so that Draco Malfoy would not have to, because he believed that Draco still had some good in him, and that if he were to complete that task, that he would be lost forever. So Severus is such a loyal follower to the point of actually killing the person whom he really cherishes. And in the very end, Severus is actually murdered by Voldemort because Voldemort realized that he had no use for him anymore, and that it would do him better to murder him rather than keep him around, essentially. So, to me, that says huge things about how Dumbledore has inspired his shared vision. He truly believes that there should be a world with no Voldemort in it. And he believes in that so much that he has inspired his followers to also believe in that, to the point where they will do anything it takes to make that happen. Challenge the process. This is actually, I feel like, one of the most strong suits for Dumbledore. He is definitely a process challenger. He is pretty hands-off when it comes to the school. He lets his teachers kind of run their houses and their classrooms as they would. But he is constantly challenging the status quo, especially with the Ministry of Magic. After Voldemort's return in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Dumbledore refused to be silent, even though the Ministry has come out and said that Voldemort does not exist and that Harry is basically just crazy and trying to get attention. Dumbledore goes on to speak out, both to his students and very publicly, that he believes Harry and that he believes that Voldemort is back. That process, or him challenging that process, really kicked off a huge plotline in the book, because the Ministry of Magic decided that since Dumbledore was no longer playing their game, that they would then replace him with someone like Dolores Umbridge. So really, he decided to speak out, even though he knew it would get him in trouble. He decided to speak out for what he believed in, which is also another good characteristic of modeling the way. He also encouraged Harry and Hermione to use the Time Turner to save people's lives, specifically Sirius Black and Buckbeak, even though that's not what the Time Turner was supposed to be used for. And in fact, they go on to talk about how it can be really dangerous for them to kind of change time. And so knowing this, he encourages them to do it anyway because of the fact that he knew that it was the right thing to do. Enable others to act. This is definitely one of Dumbledore's strongest of the 5 practices, if not the strongest. Fortunately, for some reason, my picture isn't showing up here. But anyways, so with the house disciplinary actions, he really enables his staff to just kind of do what it takes to make the school run efficiently. The house masters and mistresses, they are empowered to make their own punishments as well as kind of decide the fate of their houses. So what that means is he has told them, if you see students that are causing trouble, you can deduct points and you decide how many points you want to deduct. It's completely up to you. You can send them to detention. You can have them do, hey, the picture's back. He basically just makes sure that they know that they're empowered to do what it takes to kind of keep students in line, but also encourage and facilitate the learning process. Through that, it also encourages what one of my articles here called Surveillance in Hogwarts, Dumbledore's Balancing Act Between Managerialism and Anarchism by Aaron Yu Kwan Chan. They called this practice, they said that it encourages peer surveillance. And what peer surveillance means is, a good example of this is when Hermione kind of yells at both Harry and Ron and tells them that what they're doing is dangerous and could potentially lead to them losing points for the house. So it's it enables students to stand up to their peers, which I thought was really, really cool. And I think that is kind of how Dumbledore really likes to operate, making sure that people have freedom of choice and that they have autonomy to try things and maybe fail and maybe do bad things and realize that what they did is bad, but also within the limits of being able to keep students safe. So here I have a quote from Chan's article that says, Dumbledore's non-interference does not result from irresponsibility, but rather a deliberate strategy to display trust in the teaching team, which is another quality of a temperate leader, even if it implies taking risks. Encourage the heart. Dumbledore is really excellent at encouraging the heart. In fact, I feel like his relationship building skills are second to none. I mean, he is just really, really excellent at fostering good relationships with people. And everybody who knew him was just absolutely enraptured by who he was as a person. One of my favorite quotes from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is, "It does not do well to dwell on dreams and forget to live." That's from page 214. He is telling Harry this when Harry is standing in front of, I think it's the Mirror of Erised, and he continues to visit it every night because it allows him to see his parents. And Albus Dumbledore meets Harry there one night because he knows that Harry has been going there. And so he meets Harry there, and this is the quote that he says to him. In the context of that, he understands that is something that Harry really cherishes. He really wants his family and to know family because he's never had one. But I think it was really caring and telling of Dumbledore's character to tell him that he understands that, he has these dreams, but that he needs to not forget to actually live his real life because people can get really caught up in that. The other one is when Dumbledore saves Professor Trelawney from being thrown out by Dolores Umbridge. He tells her that while he may not be enacting, he may not be the leader at that moment in time, that Hogwarts is still technically his school, and that Dolores has no right to throw Professor Trelawney out. I thought that was a really good display of character for him. He cares a lot about his staff, and it was interesting that he had been pretty much absent up until that point, but it got to a point where Dolores was making some pretty bad decisions, and of course he decided to step in, which he usually does not, which I find very interesting about his leadership. Here's a quote that I really liked from a book. "Words are, in my not so humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it." I think that is really pertinent to leadership, just in general, because our words and what we say to the people we lead can leave a huge wake, both good or for the bad. And here is my works cited page. And that's it. Thank you very much.